Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scouts. Today it's all about Sky Sports Fantasy Football and there's £50,000 up for grabs for the winner. My name is Joe and joining me ahead of Gameweek 24's fixtures is Luke. Luke, how are you?
I'm good, Joe. Okay week for me in the end. So obviously after overhaul, it's nice to get some things right, but a few captain fails from me, playing a little bit safe, I guess, and missing out on the odd points here or there. So I think I ended up on 134, which seems for the top 100, it's not particularly good, but I think it's sort of around average or just below average. So surviving.
Well, that's it.
You?
I mean, I got 132, and we were saying before on air, I didn't know whether it was any good because in Sky you can't really see what people have got, and I can't be bothered to just add up everyone what they got last time and those things. So, but yeah, for the gist I get from on Twitter, there were a few sort of 140, 150s around. So I've from the absolute top teams, it's just sort of just below that, but pretty good. It's within the chasing pack. For me, I'm around the top 1,000, so I've been hovering around sort of the 900 mark, and I fell at time, and I had I suppose what you would call a green arrow in Sky, but a very small one. So yeah, we're looking for differentials probably coming up soon. Before we have a look at our teams and some of our plans and the community questions and of course our captains for Game Week 24, here's some latest Tier 2 bonus and Man of the Match players that are noticed here. Man of the Match, Martinez at Villa. That's annoying for us non-Martinez owners. Jesse Lingard still badgering away there with the points. Gundogan, we know, he was in our team and a lot of other teams. Ashley Barnes, it's great to see Barnes there actually. Although that's actually Barnes. I think I'm looking at the Burnley Barnes rather than the Leicester Barnes is the one I'm after. Aubameyang and Werner as well. Werner is interesting because he's starting to get the points in, gradually getting the assists in. If he's getting man of the match as well, he's starting to become an option. And as we were discussing a little before we came on air, the fixtures do change in FPL terms around the game week 30-31 mark. So it's around that mark in Sky. I haven't looked at the exact date, but basically Chelsea become good. So perhaps Werner could be an option around then. Passing tier 2, Holgate, Maguire, Lindelof, Zinchenko. So well done those that got Zinchenko on their overhaul as an extra Man City option. Cancelo, Godfrey, Cooper, Jorginho, who's in my team, so I'm pleased he got some passing tier 2 there. Kovacic and Rodri, who got his probably only penalty of his career. So well done. Tackles tier 2, Azpilicueta, Holgate, Alexander-Arnold, Pereira, who I was really close to getting in as a long-term option. And Leicester's fixtures I quite like, and I thought he'd be a differential. I just didn't do it in the end, and I sort of wish I had. Zinchenko and Højbjerg, saves tier 2, Martinez again, Fabianski, shots tier 2, not many, Aubameyang, Vardy and Fernandes. So Fernandes really underlying his potential, and Aubameyang, who we did say will the winner of Sky be someone who's tapped into Aubameyang's points. He got a hat-trick last time out, so maybe. I mean, out of all of those players there, anything spring to mind? Any sort of players you're looking at getting, or players you've already got and you're pleased about?
There's the Martinez one. I think we called it last time. We'll be sitting here questioning why we haven't got him again, and he's already started to show, hasn't he? It's really annoying. But fair play. He is ridiculous, and at some point we'll probably end up going back to him. I think when Villa's fixtures, they get a lot of extra games, don't they? After City's sort of fall away, so that's an option. Just some regrets from me, really. I mean, Gundogan, obviously, I didn't captain him when he had his massive haul, so that was a missed opportunity there, really. Obviously, the other City players did fine, so it wasn't the worst, and just owning him was pretty good. For me personally, I weighed up which Chelsea option I was going to have for these two games, and Werner was strongly in my thoughts. So, because at the end of the day, if you can have any one and it's just for two games, then I thought, well, why not go for the crazy attacker against Newcastle and people like that? You could easily get 2 or 3 goals. So I didn't go with it in the end just because he had a slight injury knock. He had a dead leg, and I thought if I go for it, I need him as captain. I need him 100% to play on both this game and then obviously the one versus Southampton. And given the rotation from the manager, in the end, I thought, well, I'll play safe, and that's what led me to go to Rudiger,
Right.
Who did okay. He got a clean sheet and was fine. But I think the vast majority of the top 100 went for Azpilicueta.
Yeah.
Who I obviously thought was a better player, but in my mind, I thought, well, if I need him for these 2 games as captain only, and Azpilicueta is maybe slightly at risk. Maybe he's not, but for me, I thought maybe if they went for a back 4, we might miss out.
Yeah.
Annoyingly, obviously, Azpilicueta gets tier 2, which is 3 points, captain to 6, so it ends up being basically an extra goal that everyone else gets. So, like I said at the start, really, a lot of players that I've got in that have done well, but then I've just kind of captained the wrong person. I think I captained Stones in the first Man City game.
Let's put your team up then, since then we'll get on to that. So that's my one. So let's get your one up. Edison in goal, and you've got currently a 5-3-2 with Stones, Cancelo, Diaz, Rudiger, and Vestergaard. Vestergaard is quite a template amongst the top 100 for Southampton options. So there could be some avenue there for those who've gone for Ings or Ward-Prowse to perhaps steal a march there. Gundogan, Grealish and Fernandes across the 3. And then you've got Salah and Bamford up top. So yeah, as you can see, I mean, our teams are quite similar, but there is a slight difference. And I think our team's quite similar to a lot of other teams, in fact. But as you said, it's the captaincy, isn't it? The captains. So those that captain Gundogan, happy days.
Yeah, exactly. And then went for the likes of Azpilicueta or Cancelo and things, and the Rodri one for me. I mean, these are moves that I would have 100% done if I had more transfers. But for me, I had to look a little bit more longer term. I mean, it's pretty obvious to me that Rodri would outscore Grealish over these next few weeks, just on sheer volume of games. And we talked about the fact that he basically comes pre-armed with an assist, so to speak, because he's going to get his tier 2 passing every game. But the problem is, at some point, we probably would have had to bring Grealish in because you need Villa for captain coverage. So I didn't want to have to bank a transfer where, in reality, Grealish, I mean, he's probably going to get outscored, but he could do okay. Obviously, from the other game the other day, I think he only got 1 point, and then Rodri compounds it by getting a penalty. So I didn't expect that to happen. So it's kind of that thing that's just been a little bit like, what would you do different? Well, maybe I would have started with Rodri over Grealish, but then I'm booking in a swap. And could I ever see Rodri taking a penalty? No. So can I beat myself up about it? I'm not so sure that I can. So yeah, it's that Azpilicueta over Rudiger. Maybe I shouldn't have played so safe, but I guess we'll have to see at Southampton if they switch to a back 4 and Azpilicueta doesn't play. Suddenly I did okay on that. And the Vestergaard one was actually close to being okay because he got 59 passes. Believe it or not,
they fell off because I looked at my score and I thought, and I actually got the passing, and then it got taken off, and then was it Fernandes?
Yeah, he got added. Yeah,
he's got added. Yeah. So I couldn't work. My score was sort of the same, but it was different.
Yeah, what happens with these? I mean, I use FOTMob, but I think you can use anything. They obviously track the passes throughout the game, and then they do a couple of updates at the end where I guess some of the passes won't quite be passes. They'll be like clearances or things like that where they just do a once-over sweep and obviously adjust it. And in that adjustment, Vestergaard lost 1 pass, so he went from 60 to 59. But obviously that takes away 2 points, which is everything where I am. I just need those 10 points so badly. In the end, not too bad. Little bit of moans. The Rodri thing, the Vestergaard, the Rudiger, Azpilicueta. Salah did fine. A lot of people didn't start with him, and he got his 1 goal. So I'm kind of happy with that at the moment. It's still very early days to make any judgments on this. And like you said, if anyone went Aubameyang or Zinchenko even, who had way more passes than everyone else most of the way through the game. And Zinchenko's excellent. It's just you never know he's going to play. He's really good for Sky. Cheap, but obviously passes, tackles, everything. Aubameyang, obviously, if you went for him, I think 4 people had him in the top 100. And if you captained him on the day, that's the stuff of dreams where you are literally just chasing down something like 30, 40 points. Overall, pretty happy. I wish I had more transfers, but it's too early to judge yet.
Okay, so let's put my team up because it's similar but different. So I've got a 4-3-3 at the moment with Edison, Stones, Cancelo and Diaz, Vestergaard, Gundogan, Fernandes, Jorginho I went for instead of Azpilicueta and instead of Rudiger. And I went for him just to be a little bit more different, but I also thought, he will get me some points. And as it transpired, it did. He didn't score, he didn't assist, but he comes away with well, for me as captain, 14 points. So I can't complain about that. Salah, yes. Salah was a player I just thought, I think you can get caught up a bit in the Twitter sphere of fantasy football, and the trend is, let's move Salah on. He's not worth that money. We can use that money elsewhere in our teams, whatever format in fantasy football. The thing is, he's still really good. I believe he was the whatever they have in the Champions League, like not man of the round or something like that, but
star of the round,
star of the week or something like that. But basically, in terms of that European creme de la creme competition, he was the star of the week so far. I got Sterling in and Bamford. So Bamford, there's captaincy days there. I think those that have gone for Rafinha, well done. I think they're going to broadly score very similar. Sterling, I got in once again to be slightly different, and I did captain him one day, which was costly. I wouldn't say I would have captained Gundogan. I might have captained one of the defenders and come away with. I might have captained Diaz and come away with nothing. I might have captained Edison and just got sort of he actually got a good return in that first match, but I went for the explosive guy up front, and he got me some points, but that's what the risk you take sometimes. I'm within the top 1,000. I would love to be in the top 100. I think that may be a tall order, but I'm not going to do that by just captaining the same Diaz every week like everyone else is.
100%. I'm behind that move. I think the Sterling thing's annoying because he costs a lot of money, and quite often you don't really want to captain him because of, we've been in before with the Liverpool thing, the Van Dijk over Salah, the situation. The defenders just nearly always, even they blanked last week because they conceded against Everton, but they still all got 5 points, and that's why they're so good. And if Sterling blanks, generally it's 2 points. And he obviously then gives you a decision, like, who am I going to captain every week, and you can get it wrong. But Gundogan shows you that the people who went for the attacking asset over the defender got really well rewarded. So it could have just been the other way around and Sterling got it. Plus, also, Sterling has got a lot more games to come than a lot of these other options up front. And now there's even rumours that Kane might be injured, for example. So a lot of people went Sterling over Kane for his sort of 4 for 2. So at the moment, if he's out of the West Ham game, or even worse, I think, is if he's starting, because I was always going to bring him in this week. So I was going to do really good to Kane. Now, given the fact that there's all these injury sort of noise and doubts, that's a worry for me. Because if I bring him in for that game and suddenly he goes off injured during it, that's 2 transfers I've used. And that is
I've been caught out before with Kane. I got Kane in. It was worse for me because I got Kane in for Mane before he scored. And it was even worse. But then I got, moving around Kane to Vardy and things like that. And I just wish I hadn't bothered. I do have Sterling's place earmarked as being Kane if I need Kane and if I think I need Kane, but I don't need him for the West Ham game.
I would say now you leave him for that 4 for 2, don't you? You leave him now.
I might not bother with Kane. Also, Kane has been, he's not been getting hat tricks. He's not. And Man City are playing so well. Spurs, I know they did well in Europe this week, but that's different to how they've been doing in the Premier League. And they have not impressed me at all as an attacking force, even when Kane's in the team.
No, it's true, but for Sky, he's so good because he's obviously got the shots on target and everything. He's like a darling, isn't he? He's still the second highest scorer despite not doing that much. But I'm with you. He hasn't been. It's just Spurs' nature, isn't it? We all know that they score sort of 1 or 2 goals and then often kind of sit in a little bit when you think they should probably go for the jugular. But it doesn't mean that in any game, because of his shooting ability and the fact that he's on penalties, he can't just pick up a brace or a hat-trick out of the blue, I guess. And for me, I think people who've gone for Sterling, they might be beating themselves up a little bit at the moment because obviously he didn't do that well. But now I think it's a perfect storm of, I can leave people like me that are probably going to have to bring Kane in for West Ham, and now I'm running a massive gauntlet, and you're still getting that 4 for 2.
Well, it is the first game on the Sunday, so you will see at least. But as you said, he could go off injured. I didn't like Mourinho's comments at all. They were so vague. He couldn't travel, or he didn't want to travel, and then he was talking about he knows his body, he knows that he needed that break, and I'm thinking Harry Kane, we know, never needs a break. He would have to be hospitalised to need a break.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing with Jose, right? And as a Manchester United fan, or loosely, we know about this experience and all that talk about what when he was with us and the likes of Phil Jones and something, he would constantly be digging him out in the media, saying like, "I can't, these guys are injured and I need them to play when they're injured, basically. So they're going to do it for the team, sort of thing." And the fact that Spurs were in such a bad period of their form was terrible, and obviously they were playing that West Brom game. Kane just appeared like almost a week or two early from their initial assessments. So to me, that all smells of Kane wasn't quite right yet, and they've risked him, and he's had another little slight tweak, which is, again, he may start for the West Ham game because they've rested him, but these things will carry on, and eventually with Kane, we know it, and we said it all this season actually on this pod. Kane will get injured at some point during the season, and then it starts to be a problem. And already it's started now, which is horrific timing because you really do need, I think, Kane, or at least a Spurs asset for captain coverage a lot part of the season, because of just the way their game's full. And as we know, the experience of having Son without Kane was not a good one. So if he does become injured or whatever happens with him, then suddenly we're at a loss almost, because who do you go for from Spurs? I know these are all ifs, buts and maybes. Maybe Kane plays and he's absolutely fine and there isn't a problem, but it's something to think about in the back of your mind. If there is no Kane, what am I going to do with that spot? Because it might have to be someone like Højbjerg rather than Son, and just sit him in for the bonus. It may be something like that.
I was just having a think about how I play Sky, because I'm currently a top 1,000 manager, but I'm not currently a top 100 manager. I have finished in the top 100 before, but I'm currently not. And I've wondered, what is the difference between me and some of the other managers like yourself and some of the other guys and gals around Sky on social media? And I think for me is because I do go for those players like Sterling over another player, I don't I sort of slightly glaze over a bit when there's too many fixtures to plan ahead. I just think that's now stopped being fun, and I'm now sort of in a world of work and spreadsheets, and I'm just thinking about who's going to score some goals, maybe, and going for that. And
no, I hear you.
But unfortunately, the way that method for me means I'm not a top 100. That's not a top 100 mentality. Top 100 mentality is looking at 4-for-1s, who is getting passing tier, who is likely to get passing tier, and it's often a defender or a boring midfielder like Højbjerg.
Yeah, it's fixture volume and bonus points, isn't it? That's the thing that Sky is different, that you can get your advantages in. But it has to be said, it doesn't always work like that. Often you can feel like you're clever, do that, and then obviously your Harry Kane or your Sterling bangs in a hat-trick, FPL style, and suddenly it was all for nothing. That has happened in previous seasons, so it just swings and roundabouts, to be fair.
Yeah, so I mean, I was just looking at those, looking at my team and things like Sterling, and what I'll probably do is, I don't know what I'm going to do with Harry Kane, but I'm definitely going to keep Sterling for the Arsenal match. I'm going to not bother with Kane for the West Ham match. I've then got just looking at the fixtures.
Sterling plays 2, doesn't he? Especially if that Wolves game goes in there, basically, which we think it will. Then he's going to play 2 over.
Well, it's been hinted by Pep that it will. This is being to timestamp. This has been recorded on Friday morning. We'll try and get this out as soon as we can. But the deadline is Friday. This evening and Friday. Man City. They have an extra game there, so they play West Ham. Probably another game as well. Depending on how it falls, I'll either get Sterling to Kane ahead of the Burnley match, or not bother with that and get Kane in perhaps for the Spurs match against Palace, and that could be the one I need. I don't need Kane, really. I may need Kane from there on, but we don't have the fixtures yet, so they may be announced by the time you see this. Also, Man City play Manchester United then. I never really like Sterling in those sort of matches. I just don't feel that that's his type of match.
He's often been not particularly good in the big games. He's done better of late, but for a long time he was very bad in the big games, especially against Liverpool and stuff. Well, I also think the problem with Sterling is because Pep likes people who are scoring goals, and the fact that Foden is clearly scoring goals, and Mahrez played the other day and showed that he can score goals. Foden can play either side. It wouldn't surprise me at some point if Sterling suddenly drops out. We've seen it before.
It was a massive rotation. He said it. He said everyone's going to play. We're playing every 3 days, and that's going to be happening for a few weeks. We know there's rotation, which is why I'm thinking of moving off a Man City asset already, which is perhaps scary. But anyway, let's have a look at the fixtures coming up, because there's a few issues here that we need to look at for our team immediately. So the Friday, Wolves against Leeds. The Friday is now today. It's the Friday. So Wolves play Leeds, Bamford for both of us, I presume.
Yeah.
But Rafinha, Dallas, I think they were good options.
100%. Yeah.
I think Neto is a good option as well. If you, for some reason, you've got Neto. And then looking at the Saturday,
Phillips is out, isn't he? So even Wolves, you'd expect, might be able to get a goal in that.
I'm a little bit nervous as a Bamford captainer, because as we had on the Scoutcast, and with Seb as being a Leeds fan, had some great analysis there, and also David has done some work on that, and they were showing us that it's not just in terms of defence where with Phillips out a Leeds suffer, it's their attack as well.
Yeah, he's a great playmaker, isn't he? He knocks the ball beautifully. Yeah. No, I agree. I can see that. And the thing is, with Wolves, nearly every game's 0-0 at half time, so you'll be nervous on that one, I would have thought. But it's Bamford. If he gets shots on target, that's fine, because we'll be exactly. Yeah, and Dallas, like we just said, he might concede, but he could get passing bonus in that, because it's Wolves. Even if he plays midfield, he could get tackles. Dallas is probably your safest bet for some sort of avenue to points, but in terms of explosiveness, I guess it always has to be Bamford, just for those penalties and shots on target. And
worth noting, Rafinha is on corners, a lot of set pieces. So
yeah, it looks very good.
Assist potential there. Moving on to the Saturday, Southampton against Chelsea, Burnley against West Brom, Liverpool against Everton, Fulham against Sheffield United. For me, it's on Salah, but I think if I had Nick Pope, I'd be very tempted with that. I think it also could be a potentially good match for your Southampton or Chelsea assets.
I'll be on Salah for that game, just because it just makes sense. I don't have Pope, and the Southampton Chelsea game, could be lucrative, but I don't know which way that's going to go. To be fair, I'm not sure 100%. I know Chelsea have been winning games to 0, so maybe you could expect a 1 or 2-0 there, but. Salah just makes sense. If he's playing and there's no Bruno Fernandes or Man City player on the same day, then basically he's just a standout for me. So I'll do that.
On the Sunday, it's a Fernandes day. Don't bother with the rest. Manchester United play Newcastle. So unless you're one of the 4 managers in the top 1,000 that don't own Fernandes, just captain him. Meanwhile, West Ham against Tottenham, obviously could be Harry Kane. You'll at least see whether he's going to play. Villa against Leicester. Harvey Barnes could be an option.
Grealish, Barnes, Watkins, lots of good options there.
Arsenal against Man City, take your pick, but I just prefer Fernandes that day, and I'll know he'll play.
I do think Man City, because of Arteta's style and the way they've played against the big teams, is to sit in and try and counter on them, and obviously he knows Man City quite well. So I think therefore Man City players will get passing bonus. They get it in every game. It's hardly a brave prediction. There's still an option. It's just that you feel like Arteta might be able to nick a goal there, especially with Aubameyang being in the form that he's just shown, and obviously playing against Obrod. I can see maybe 1-0 City. That's an obvious score at the moment, 1-2-0. But I just think when Bruno Fernandes plays, you just have to almost go there, don't you? And against Newcastle, did he score 2 goals in Europe yesterday or something as well?
Yeah. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he just can't.
Relentless.
He's just relentless. It was in the Premier League. He's now played 38 matches because he joined around this time last season, and he's had 41 attacking returns.
It's just madness, isn't it? And then home to Newcastle. I know they're trying to attack a little bit more, which strangely may actually help out Bruno Fernandes a bit. I think Newcastle will probably score, but it might give Bruno Fernandes a little bit more space to operate in, which is a good thing, obviously.
Yeah, and then moving on to the Monday, and this is the teaser, Brighton against Palace.
Lock in that clean sheet already.
Yeah, and now Zaha's out, as far as we know, unless Roy has suddenly developed kidology. But Zaha's out, so that means that Palace will be rubbish, and Brighton's defensive form at home, especially, has been fantastic. This is where I'm going to make a move. So this will be my first post overhaul move, I think. And I'm going to move a Man City defender on for Dunk. Because I have Edison, I have Stones, Cancelo, Diaz. There's going to be rotation. We've already seen heavy rotation. Diaz and Stones are not going to play. Say they've got 2 games coming up. They're not going to play 2 games. They're going to play 1 game. And Cancelo is at risk as well of missing a game. I think if all of them to go, I think it might be Stones for me. My other option is to get Sanchez in for Ederson. So I might do that as well. That is another option for me. I'm sort of keeping my powder dry on that one. And then, but I'm thinking of moving the next move on. So if I went for Sanchez, I would then move to Martinez for a while. If I go for Dunk, I'm going to move. That would mean I would move Dunk to Harvey Barnes, who is not going to be well owned, is getting shots tier, is scoring goals, has great fixtures. I don't even need to see which days it falls, but it could be that he's a good captaincy option as well. So I might know by then. And I kind of discussing why am I a top 1,000 manager, not a top 100 manager. Probably because I'm going to go Stones out for Dunk, then to Harvey Barnes. That's what I'm going to do.
No, I think that could work. It's just, yeah, I'd want to keep Stones in that equation somehow, but it's just not possible, is it? And for me, that Monday the 22nd, I won't have a Brighton player, and obviously starting with a Brighton player already looks like it was a good move.
Yeah.
I was hoping they were gonna have their clean sheet bust. I mean, because that was the tougher game of all of them, probably, wasn't it? Home to Villa. But Villa were awful on that game, and Brighton were fantastic. So right now, it looks like that is an absolutely nailed clean sheet, possible bonus points. Dunk looks fun. We talked about it before. Palace are shocking on set pieces. Dunk, I wouldn't be surprised if Dunk hit a worldie haul in that game.
Yeah, he's got a goal in him. And he's got a goal in him.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's kind of annoying. So I'm just going to have to pray that Ayew pops up with a goal, or Eze somehow. I mean, Eze's great. I don't really understand why they are so bad without Zaha when Eze's come in, and Eze's not. He's kind of comparable to Zaha in a way in terms of he can dribble with the ball and he can he's creative. So I don't know. I mean, the facts are there. When Zaha's not there, they are rubbish. But to me, it just doesn't make sense. Like, why? Because you've now got Eze. Like, it was an excuse before. So I'm just praying they can get something. I'm not hopeful.
I mean, as a Brighton fan, the answer's simple. Palace are rubbish. But no, what's interesting about Palace is I do think genuinely, just if I was completely neutral on this, I would think they're poorly run in terms of virtually all their players are out of contract by the end of this season. That is not a good state to be in. So they've got sort of Zaha is their best player, and I don't think the collection of players they got at the moment is people who should have been moved on a while ago.
The passion's not there,
the passion is not there. They've got sort of nearly men, carpetbaggers, all of those. I mean, it's not a proper team, because you take one player out and it folds and crumbles. Wolves were almost like that, but then they found a way to play without Jimenez. So sometimes they'll lose, sometimes they'll win, and it depends on because they've got players like, say, Neto, who are doing well. And of course they've got Johnny coming back. But with Palace, they're just a no-go for me.
There is a consideration, like the move you're making now. I think in the projections from Ian Parrin, and it seems to be following suit at the moment, that Brighton may end up with another two, possibly, or even more individual games moving forward. So, for me, the thing is, this is a great entry point. Even though you've missed the last one, it is annoying. It's like, I should have had that. But sometimes you just have to forget that.
They've got West Brom next. So that's
again another clean sheet probably.
I'll be keeping the hop off if I did that would be, so Brighton have got looking forward in game week 25, Brighton have got West Brom, and then the following day Leicester have Arsenal. So that would be a drop off for me, point. But I might keep Brighton for the Leicester game itself, and then that's coming. But depending on how it falls, so we could be talking extra games and also another single game day.
I mean, there is a slight possibility, by the way, that I've heard touted, that Brighton versus West Brom could end up being on a single match day. I know.
Well, Dunk's definitely in for me.
They've also got a home to Newcastle game at some point. I think it's during the FA Cup blank week or something like that as well. There is. I should probably bring in a Brighton player for this week, and I think we've even got a question on this. But I look at my team and my lack of stops, and I just think, who would I take out? And like you, the answer basically would have to end up being a Man City defender.
Yeah.
Now I do that, and I feel like, will that end up be worth the move? Well, yeah, it could be because of the individual match days, but if they don't get the individual match days, I would back the Man City defender over them, even if they play less games. But it's not set in stone. I mean, that could easily go either way, couldn't it? So it's a hard one to know the answer on, and I will wait till that game before I make a decision, I think.
Okay, so let's come to our community questions then. So Tom Sky FF says, would you rather move Azpilicueta, he means, to another City defender, so bulking up on City defenders, or Lewis Dunk for the Palace captaincy? Well, I think we're pretty much given our answer, and the move I'm going to do, I'm actually going to move a City defender on for a Brighton defender, which sounds insane, but in this game it could work. Azpilicueta, one of my regrets is I like Jorginho, and I've gone for the penalty guy. But if I'd have got Azpilicueta to Lewis Dunk is an absolutely easy move. And if you've got money in the bank, you can then move him on elsewhere to perhaps a Leicester player or a Spurs player if you need them.
Yeah, I feel like we need a little bit more information there, because things like how many transfers you've got left could change it. Like we said, Chelsea have got a fantastic run later on, so maybe if you're not on too many, you might want to leave him in because he's great. Then, like you've just said there, going to Man City or Brighton, well, to be honest, that would depend on how many Man City players you've got in your team right now. If you only put 1 or 2 in, then I'd say, to be honest, you need that 3 or 4 to make any benefit from them. So I'd probably edge that way. But if you've probably got 3 or 4 or more, like most people have, then right now it looks like Brighton is probably the way to go, just because of those single match days. And just hope that Brighton continue in this vein, which is always the worry, that will they or will they not. But at the moment, it doesn't look like slowing. And obviously their underlying stats and data across the season has been consistent and strong throughout. So it just looks like it's finally falling into place, really.
Which is really nice as a Brighton fan as well. Usually the way Brighton seasons, they start strongly and they peter off, and this way it's gone complete reversal. They've sort of been they've had strong underlying stats, but the performances and the results haven't been great on the whole, and then now it's suddenly come to fruition. So a bit of an about turn. FPL Fish asks, do we get a Brighton asset or not bother? I mean for me, I've got 19 transfers. For me, it's a no-brainer to use a transfer on a player like, say, Lewis Dunk, who gives me potential of points. But for someone like you who've got slightly less transfers left, is it worth bothering with?
Well, this is the thing. I need to tactically pick my times where I feel like I can hopefully get away with it. So for me, I probably won't, because it's a Brighton asset, and then I can hope that later on, like I've discussed, a Kane as a 3-for-1 and he goes mad, right? So that's where I'm at. But I feel like the nature of the game of Sky is to cover these captains. You've got to be in it to win it, and any single individual captain day can net you 40 plus points if you get it lucky. And right now, Brighton look like, Dunk looks like he's almost nailed on for 14. Probably ends up with something like 20, and could end up with more if he ends up with man of the match or the goal. Given they've also got a possible 2 or 3 other captain days, I feel like if you've got 19 swaps or anything like you, then it probably makes sense just to cover it now.
Definitely. Matt asks, how long are you keeping double or triple City defence, and what is the plan on moving them off, and who are your targets? Well, I think I've just explained my one. I've got Stones, Cancelo, Diaz, Edison. All 4 of them are not going to play every week. That's just the way it is. I'm going to have to take a gamble that and just pick one that isn't. And Diaz I want to keep. Edison I think I want to keep. But Cancelo I think I want to keep because of the potential of extra points. So for me, Stones or Edison will go. But for you, are you looking to move off? Is there a particular hop-off point, you reckon?
To be honest, I feel like I'm probably... right now my intention is probably to keep them season long. Just because I like them over any other defenders in the game. Even if they're playing less games. They just seem to do well. The one that is expendable is probably Edison. Just simply because if I want to cover Aston Villa, who then will end up with extra games, and obviously you've already seen Martinez can match Edison in any individual game, and it often better him, and also free up funds. So I have a loose plan that at some point I may do Edison to Martinez. That's not even set in stone. And apart from that, really, it's keep the Man City boys, unless we get to Champions League. And like you're saying, I'm looking at the lineup every week, and it's Walker, Mendy, Laporte, Garcia, and it happens 1 or 2 times in between Champions League, then suddenly I'm going to have to do something about it, because it's just obvious it's going to keep happening, isn't it? So Right now, no particular plans. Basically, sorry.
Sam Betts asks, how many people play Sky? Now, I'm quite interested in that. I don't know. Do you know?
I didn't get the total this season, but I can find out. But historically, it's somewhere between 500,000 and 850,000. It did go up to 1 million one year, just under. So I would hazard a guess that it's around sort of the sort of 700,000 mark. But I shall find out for you and get the exact total, because it's hard to know when it's COVID affected. It could be that a lot of people haven't bothered. Because that's often the way.
There seems to be a lot more attention to Sky this season. I know a lot of people who played FPL are used to that, have moved to play Sky as well, and are enjoying it immensely, finding themselves doing very, very well in the top 100 for the first time. Dan Cox, who has won it, who's done very well in the past. Are we brave enough to do without KDB? So yeah, he's the Belgian elephant in the room, if there's such a thing.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a little bit about this. I currently don't have any plans to get him. However, if he comes back, looks like he's fit and firing, looks fantastic, plays up front, gets 2 penalties, it's going to be hard to ignore him. And then, or even if he sits deep and suddenly starts playing in the playmaker in the absence of Gundogan and gets passing to it, he's got so many avenues. Then we've already discussed Kane. Kane suddenly maybe opens up an avenue if Kane is not quite right or gets injured again. And I have got Salah in my team, so at any point I can move Salah on to Kevin De Bruyne, worst case scenario. So that I kind of have got backups, but I don't really want. I mean, I prefer to have Salah and Kane. So yeah, I'm going to be ignoring him. And to be honest, it is literally on a whim and praying that he doesn't turn into last season's Kevin De Bruyne. This season's
that makes me want to get him, because I'm assuming a lot of managers will think your way there.
They will do, yeah. I mean, he is definitely a differential for the top 1,000. I think I would go there.
For me, it would probably be Sterling to him or Sterling to Kane. So it's facing a Kane or KDB choice. But I could do something else and maybe do that. I do like the idea of not many of KDB being a differential.
I don't think many people in the top. I mean, maybe I'm being wrong, but I think in the Twitter sphere at least, I think a lot of people have not really planned for him, just given how his season's gone. And I've talked about, he is the best player in the league for me. So if he suddenly switches it on, then we might be in trouble. But I just pray that Champions League, his injury record, the fact that they may have steamrolled the league, that eventually they just kind of use him for Champions League and give him the odd break. That's my praying plan right now, but we'll see. We just have to adapt, don't we? Fantasy football, we have to adapt. If these things change and suddenly it's not like that, then I'll probably have to
dynamics with Gundogan and KDB in the same team may change as well. Gundogan may not be as good. He may still be as good. We don't know yet. So I'm going to give it some games. I want to see KDB play some games. I don't mind missing out if he gets, say, a brace in the next game. I'm monitoring. I'm going to give him a couple of games, at least a couple of Premier League games.
The other guy who could break the game is Mr. Aguero, isn't it? It's not. Yes. I mean, it's ridiculous that he's barely not played at all this season. He may not even be the same player. Yeah. There's all these factors, but suddenly, if you see his name in the team sheet and he bangs 2 goals, then you're going to have the fear, because that guy can hit 4 or 5 in a game, as we know.
And a differential there. Vardy is another differential, I think. I haven't checked his ownership, but I would assume that not many people have Vardy at the moment in the top 100 or so.
Yeah, and the thing with Vardy, I think, is a lot of people might have hang-ups on him because he was pretty poor before his injury. But we know that he was kind of carrying this. I mean, we knew at the time-ish that he was carrying this niggle that was obviously affecting him. At the end of the games, he could barely walk for a little while. So now you have to think, well, if that's happening at the end of the game, then that's also happening in the 87th minute. He's just covering for it. If you know what I mean, he's trying his best. So if he's suddenly free of that problem, then Vardy goes back to anything like he could be. Then that's a good thing, I think, because like a lot of people will have hang-ups on him, and maybe he just goes back to how he's been the last few seasons, and we don't get him.
Dragos Sky asks, what's the plan with Southampton? Is Vestergaard no longer a good prospect? Both of us have Vestergaard, and I still think he's a great prospect, and he's cheap. But
yeah, I'm not having that right now. They've got potentially, like in FPL terms, at least 3 double game weeks in a row now with all the fixtures running. So he's in for captain coverage. At the end of the day, Southampton haven't been great. Do you want to use a spot on Ings? Maybe he's probably the best, but then you're using a forward slot, and we've already discussed there's so many forwards. The only one for me is either JWP, James Ward-Prowse, or Vestergaard. and either of those is fine. But I feel like Vestergaard, he got that passes taken off of him in the last minute. That could easily have been a 3-pointer. I don't know if anyone actually watched the game, but Southampton were easily in control of that game and could quite comfortably have won it to 0. They obviously had that penalty given against them, which I don't think was a penalty, and then suddenly it changes the game. They then concede, and then Neto scores a world-class goal against them, which may not, if they hadn't got the penalty and 1-0 up and the tail's gone up, it probably wouldn't have happened. So it fine margins there. So I still like Vestergaard for now. At the end of the day, if they keep getting spanked 3 or 4 goals and he's not getting passing bonus, then he'll just have to go. There's nothing else I can do about that. But we'll have to monitor it.
No, I think he's fine. I mean, he's cheap enough. I mean, I sort of had Dallas in that cheap defender role for most of pre-overhaul, and I was quite happy with him because he had the occasional goal in him, and he had those the bonus tiers as well, and the odd clean sheet. So Vestergaard, he may be a season keeper for me if he stays fit. He's just keep him there.
And they've got a great run, so I'll be keeping him. But if you really want to jump off of him and you don't have a Brighton player, then obviously you could go to Ben White, who's 6.3 million. I don't think Ben White is a particularly great asset, but if you really don't want Vestergaard, and at least you're getting some coverage for a Brighton player there. Another option.
Mark Sky FF. So final question: do we regret any of our overhaul picks, and is there anyone you wish you had bought? So I think both of us mentioned. I sort of wish I'd gone for Lewis Dunk from the start. That's one of my regrets. I'm not sure who I would have gotten for though, because virtually all my other players got me points. So I think Lewis Dunk would have been sensible, perhaps for one of my Man City defenders. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've talked about this quite a bit. I mean, Rodri over Grealish maybe, but then I'm saving a swap. Could I have done the penalty? No. Aspilicueta or Werner, who was the one I was touting as my differential. I mean, I was saying it in a lot of chat groups as well, and then he obviously gets man of the match, scores everything. So that's I should have backed myself on that one. So I do have a regret. I should have gone Werner over Rudiger. But because we're only 1 game into 2, if Rudiger gets clean sheet bonus and scores a goal from a corner next week, then suddenly I look an idiot, don't I? So I can't say yet. So they're probably my 2.
I think on the whole, I don't really have a tremendous amount of regrets, because all the players I got in and you got in as well, they're all from teams that work out, and there's a plan. There's a plan for moving off them.
We're only 1 week in. You can't have regrets after 1 week, really, can you? It's annoying when someone, Rodri gets 14 and Grealish gets 1, but.
I mean, I think Rodri owners got lucky because he's never going to take a penalty again, and I think Edison owners also got lucky, because he's not really going to get an assist again. He may well do. But I mean, that was a fantastic assist, by the way. But Gundogan scored it and made it. He needed a player like Gundogan.
Yeah, what a finish. What a control and finish.
It was unbelievable. I could not... Yeah, but it was a great great assist and great goal. That's not going to happen every week. So that does make me think Edison could be surplus to requirements. But other than that, I think I'm okay with it, really. Sort of jobbing along. As I said, it's Friday. We are expecting more fixtures soon, so by the time you see this, those fixtures may be out, so there's a caveat there. Next week, well, hopefully they'll be out by next week, hopefully. So next week we'll discuss Gameweek 25, but also we'll have a bit more idea what we're going to do planning wise and some more fixtures to look at. But in the meantime, Luke, thanks so much for joining me, and good luck with your Gameweek in Sky.
Yeah, same to you, mate. See you on the next one.